guys? Welcome back to my channel, Previews and Vlogs. Thanks for coming back. If you guys have not been here before, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, also hit the like button. All right, so today, also follow me on Instagram. Don't forget, Previews and Vlogs on Instagram. But today, what we're gonna be working on is the wife's car. I'm always working on my car and doing mods to my car or anything else like that. I got the Acura that's gonna be my winter car that still has not been touched pretty much, other than just the AC unit that I had to fix on that. But today we're gonna actually be doing, the car has, the 2016 Nissan Rogue that my wife drives has 91,000 miles on it. Yes, it's a 16 with 91,000 miles on it. She drives a lot to work. So we're gonna be replacing spark plugs. She is feeling a rough idle when she's at a stop sign. No check engine lights, no codes, of course. Again, I do work for a Nissan dealer. So I pretty much keep it well maintained, oil changes, all the stuff that needs to be done per mileage. I'm going to be showing you guys how to do the spark plugs pretty much on this one. Hopefully we don't run into any issues here, but it should be a pretty quick job. So, and also we're going to be installing a K&N air filter instead of the original air filter that's already on the car. So we'll do those two things today just to kind of give her a little bit better air intake for the car, maybe a little bit better fuel economy with the K&N air filter. Not really looking for horsepower gains on this car. It is a Rogue, doesn't have very much, actually, I don't even know what the horsepower on this thing is. It's about 160 or something. But we're gonna start off. I'm gonna show you guys how to get to the spark plugs real quick. And this should be, again, a pretty simple job. So let's go ahead and get going. All right, so what we're going to need for this job is gonna be, of course, a 3/8 ratchet, a 6-inch extension, a 9/16 spark plug socket, a 10mm socket, of course your spark plugs, set of pliers or needle nose pliers. And the reason I have this other one here, this other spark plug socket, is because this one has a magnet in it, inside of it, and this one does not. So when you're trying to get the spark plugs out, if they don't grip onto this, I am usually using this just to pull them out from in there. So simple job. This is all tools you need. Of course, there's a K&N filter that's going to be going in the car. 4 spark plugs for this car. The gap on them, if you get them from Nissan, they're pre-gapped, so you shouldn't have to gap them or anything. If you don't, the gap, I believe, is 0.043 is the gap on there. So just make sure that I would just get them from Nissan. You won't have to worry about anything, having to gap them or anything like that. All right, so let's go ahead and get started on this. All right, so to get to the sockets or to the spark plugs, this actually has to come out of here. So to get to there, you gotta get loosen up 2 clamps. This clamp here and this clamp right here. These are 2 air lines that gotta be loosened up. This itself is not hooked on by anything other than that. This, of course, you gotta make sure you take this out of here just to make sure it doesn't pull on that hose. Once you loosen up those clamps, this whole thing should just come right up off of here. They're not tied down or bolted down, it just pop right up. So we'll go ahead and get that going. Since we got YouTube magic, always when you're taking them off, make sure you don't overstretch these wires. You stretch those wires, either it's a repair on that connector or it's a wiring harness, which would be the worst case. So now we got access to all the spark plugs. And now we're going to use our, of course, spark plug socket to get them all out, 6-inch extension. And we'll start pulling them out right now. Now, after getting the first one out, if you guys can see right here, those brown marks right there, there's the tip of it, if you guys can actually see that. But because of this, that means the spark plug is arcing. Now, even though the car's still running great, hasn't had any issues with it, they still need to be replaced. It's only got 91,000 miles. Nissan doesn't recommend this again till 105,000, but I'm doing them early, again, just to make sure that she's okay on the highway when she's driving, that there's no issues with it. So we'll go ahead and keep taking the other ones out of here right now and put the other new ones in, and then again, put the K&N filter in. All right, guys, so spark plug, I should say, 1 and 2 are out of there. While trying to get 3 out, it's kind of seized in there. You can feel it. This socket or the socket, the wrench will not turn all the way. And when I pulled the extension out to look inside of there, I noticed that there was, of course, the porcelain had broken off of the spark plug. Not sure how that happened. I didn't use an impact tool or anything, but we got to get those pieces out. So what we're going to do is, I was got to vacuum out. I don't have a compressor to blow air into there. I was going to vacuum them out, but ended up actually talking to a buddy of mine that works with me at Nissan. Said, if you use some grease, pretty much I put it at the end of the spark plug of a screwdriver, and then put it down the hole, you could get most of the pieces out. They are small pieces, so we're gonna try that out. We're gonna take some of this grease, just dab it into the actual screwdriver, and put it inside, of course, of the cylinder hole or the spark plug hole, and get the pieces out of there. So I can't do that while I'm holding the camera, but I'll go ahead and do that and then show you guys the pieces that I got out of there and how it looks inside out. All right, guys, so got most of the pieces out. There are very little few pieces out that I still got to get out of there, make sure that's completely cleared out. But here I'm going to show you exactly how these look out of there. As I was pulling the plug out, of course, you could hear that, it felt like it was kind of like, felt like it was stripped. As they turned, for every turn that I did of that ratchet, it just didn't sound right. Luckily, all the threads are perfectly fine, and I don't see anything that's cross-threaded or anything like that, anything crazy, so, which is a good thing. So this is supposed to be a very easy job, 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops, if that. But when something like this goes bad, it becomes longer, and then you got to deal with it. But we got it out. Let's get the last one out, put the plugs back in there, put the K&N filter into the car, and we should be all done with this. And hopefully no pieces fell in there. Now, if any pieces did fell in there, as long as they're very tiny, you're gonna get a small noise. It's gonna sound horrible. It's probably gonna, until it burns out. It is porcelain. It will burn out. May cause damage inside the cylinder head. It may cause a little bit of scoring, nothing major. Again, it's ceramic, so it's very fragile, so it'll probably burn out anyways, go through the exhaust and come out and basically get caught into the catalytic converter. Hopefully it won't cause any major damage. But let's get the last one out of there and we'll finish this up. This is the only one that gave me trouble. Again, cylinder number 3. So got it as clean as I possibly could in there from all the grease and everything. So we're gonna go ahead and put the new spark plugs in there and we'll finish this job. So here are all the new spark plugs here. We want to check is make sure that there is no cracks on the actual porcelain on the new ones. They've been dropped or something, so we don't have that issue, especially if it's going back in. We don't want to run into any issues that they're going back in, so we just want to make sure that there are no cracks. These all look good. Do not use any type of air gun or power tool or anything to put those back in. Do them by hand. That's the best way to do it. I'm actually going to just not even use the wrench itself. I'm going to actually just use the actual, just the socket and the extension, just like this, until it gets tight enough in there. Then I'm going to tighten them down with the wrench. Now I'm going to use any type of power tool or anything. The gap on these should be 0.043. That's by Nissan spec. It's actually stated in the owner's manual. So if you need to gap them, most of these come already gapped. It does say in here, make sure you gap it to the specific of the car, but I measured 2 of them. They're at 0.43 already, so we should be good with those, which they should be. So we'll go ahead and get these put on real quick here. Didn't feel right going in. I did it by hand. I had to pull it in and out about 3 times or so just to kind of get it in there by hand slowly, and it went down until it stopped, which didn't take very long. Went the rest of the way down with the wrench, and it just kind of felt like it was way too long for me to kind of keep turning it, because the other ones took a few turns, and then they kind of tightened down. That one took a little bit longer. Let's just hope everything turns out fine with that one. So now we'll go ahead. Before you put on the coil packs, make sure, or the coils, make sure that there's no, of course, oil in them or anything like that on this, because that means you're gonna probably have a valve cover that's leaking internally. Usually not an issue with these cars a lot, but just want to make sure. Should actually have done that when we took out the coils. But we're gonna go ahead and put these back on there, and it should be all set, hopefully. so now that it's all back in, all we gotta do is change the engine air filter, put the K&N one in there, go for a drive and see, make sure that everything's perfectly fine and there's no issues with the car. Now, at the beginning I said I was not going to make this video to begin with. Luckily I did, because it did show you if you guys wanted to do the spark plugs. It's a fairly simple job if you don't run into an issue like I just did, which gave me an extra pretty much, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes of work to have to do on the car. Now, again, it's not a complicated job to do. If you know what you're doing, if you have some kind of know-how, again, if you run into an issue like I did, yes, it will give you a problem and you would be kind of taking a little bit longer on it to get it done. But let's go ahead and put the K&N air filter in there. Or the part number 335016. Of course, you can pick this up on Amazon. $43 is what I picked it up for. And we're gonna replace this filter because it is a pain in the ass to do when you have a camera on your hands. But let's do this. Set you guys down here for a second. Pretty bad. That's actually really bad. I usually shake my head when I see customers come in and their air filters like that, so that's not good. Here's the new filter, of course. Have a quick unboxing of it. Fits perfectly in there. No movement, no gap. You should have no gap or anything, because if not, you're gonna get either a check engine light for a mass airflow sensor. So no movement or gap, because if you have any type of movement or gap or anything in there, it should be completely sealed all the way around. If not, you will get a check engine light for a mass airflow sensor or some other light on there. But that looks good. Put this piece back on here. All right, so that's it. K&N air filter, new plugs. Old plugs are bad. Of course, well, they weren't bad. They were just needed to be done. 90,000 miles in 2 years or 3 years. She actually uses this car. Now we'll go ahead and turn it on and make sure there's no issues. All right, seems good. No noise from the engine. Seems like it's running good. I don't feel a misfiring. Always make sure that the spark plugs, all the coils are plugged in before you put this top piece in. I did that on the Cadillac, and I forgot to plug in cylinder number 6 when I did that spark plugs in that car, and that was just, it threw all codes and everything else. But we're gonna go ahead and go for a drive on this thing right now. Hopefully everything is good when I hit it on the highway and everything, because that's what she drives mainly, is highway. So let's go ahead and get this car and go for a test drive. All right, guys, so I've been driving the car for a good solid 15 minutes now, and it feels great. From what it was feeling like, it had even at idle, it had a rough idle. That smoothed out. Again, you saw the spark plugs; they were pretty much arcing already. You can see all that on the yellow underneath by the spark plugs on the porcelain there. So definitely need to be changed out. Sorry, I'm not holding the camera properly here. I'm actually doing it on my phone because the wife doesn't have any GoPro or anything I could just set up that way. All right, so I'm at a stoplight, and definitely a big difference. The car had a rough idle. You can see it going almost like a misfire, a slight misfire. Of course, no check engine light was thrown. It wasn't that bad. But every time you stop at a light, you could feel the car kind of shake a little bit. You felt a little vibration of the car. 2 stoplights I've hit so far, and I have not felt that. It's smooth every time you get to a stoplight when idling. So definitely, if you are at about the 90,000 to 100,000 mile mark, I definitely recommend doing the spark plugs on your car. Either taking it to a shop if you don't feel comfortable doing it or doing it yourself. Again, the job is not a hard job as long as everything comes out smoothly. Should take you maybe 20 minutes tops, like I said earlier. If you're doing it for the first time, maybe a little bit longer. You got to be a little bit more careful when you're taking everything out. If you have the issue I ran into, it'll take a little bit longer than that. So getting an air filter up on her car finally. It's been about 3 years. Not that it's gonna give it any major horsepower. The car is not meant for that. It's a small SUV. It's a family SUV. It's not gonna be meant for that. But it helps the car breathe a little bit better. It gets a little bit more air into the system, which helps out with the pickup on the car. So you can definitely feel a difference between the spark plugs and the filter, especially when you're accelerating on the car. All right, so a week later, 400 miles added to the car. Everything's good. K&N filter is perfect. No check engine lights. Nothing fell inside that third spark plug hole or inside the cylinder. So we're good with that, and everything's running on 4 cylinders. So an easy job turned into a pain in the butt just because one of them would not come out. If you guys have that issue, or if you guys are going to do this type of job, be careful when you're doing it, and just make sure that you know what you're doing before you start the job. Again, it's not a hard job, but things like that could happen. All right, so this is the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoy it. I'll see you guys next time with the next video.